And the rain is something which in the ground, the process that is going through in the ground now, people are dying. 20,000 people die each day. So now what action or strategies have been put in place in regard to just decline what ACAT or whatever AU doing? So have you put yourself into through, or have you put yourself in shoes of the civilian who are losing their life because they trust they put in you? So what are you applying for this issue now? Thank you.
Desperate for peace. And it's not only the peace that we are looking for, it's the change to our country. I'm very proud that I'm a part of Splm in opposition or Splm resistance movement. But as leaders now who are yearning for change, let's say a peace is achieved today or it's signed today, what will be our difference or the change that we will take to Juba compared to what is now aided or compared to the Kir regime? If we are only starting now imposing some people, like now we the youth here, we have been coming to your office desperately complaining that, and you are still imposing that quality here to us as our chairman. And our voice was very clear from the beginning, we didn't want him. And now you can see as even now, he has taken the seat, he's sitting as our chairman without our approval. How will the change be comprehensive in such kind of scenario? What will be our change? What will be the change that we will? This is the same thing that Kir is doing. So please, if we really want to bring the change, I think we need to hear the voice of the people, and these are the community, the people. If they are here and you don't listen to the voice of them, I don't see how different we will make with our people there, and I don't see why we are taking all my time fighting. And there will be never a change that we will achieve. Thank you so much.
Ambassador mentioned before that Dr. Rio, or the chairman of the SPLA, did not sign, did not accept the position of the first vice president. And when you read carefully from the areas of agreement that were signed between him and Salva Kiir, you would bear with me that he really accepted that there shall be the president, the vice president, which is first vice president, and second vice president. So I expect an office which is representing us to tell us the correct information, because some of us, at the agreement is signed from there, in less than 5 minutes we get the document, we read the correct reading. So I don't think that it would be possible for someone to deceive all these people seated here. My question here will go directly to the proposal. Let's say that the president and the vice president of the transitional government of national unity shall be the incumbent president and the vice president of the Republic of South Sudan, and the SPLA in opposition shall nominate the vice president of the transitional government. But there are areas shaded that, these areas that have been shaded with blue, these are the areas that have been disputed by the SPLA, and the areas shaded with green are the areas that have been disputed by the Juba government. And I do not see the final stand on whether these disputed areas have been resolved amicably. And I think what is most important before anything is signed, whether the powers, executive power of the first vice president, but what is important is that whether the Juba government or the Juba faction have agreed to reform. And in your FAGAC meeting, you say that we rename our country the Federal Republic of South Sudan, and we immediately establish 21 states. Are you carrying on with that agreement or that resolution from FAGAC, or you drop it from FAGAC and the pressure became so high that we try to change our position quickly before you tell us what has been changed? So precisely what I want to know is that is the resolution of renaming South Sudan to be Federal Republic of South Sudan in the negotiating table, or it has been dropped because of the pressure? They give you pressure that sign the interim government, go to Juba and discuss all those things. So I want to be brief on the establishment of the 21 states, whether we recognize them or we drop them. Thank you.
And members, that we have the determination to end this conflict. And we have different ways of ending the conflict in South Sudan. Our interest in Juba in 2013, beginning from March, when the Splm National Convention was to be held, and there was a preparatory meeting, and agenda setting was also being discussed. It emerged that we wanted reforms, not revolution. We wanted reforms. And the president did not take it the way we wanted him to take it, because we were demanding these reforms in good faith within the party. But the issues dragged on until the convention was not held, and until the party itself was dissolved by the president using his executive powers. Until in December, he introduced violence and killed thousands of our citizens. We reacted to the violence because we cannot keep on running around the world, leaving our citizens being butchered by the government. We had to resist, and now there is resistance. This resistance will continue. It will continue until we have the change. We have sole objective. We have a just cause to ensure that South Sudan is put on the right framework, on the right foundation, and the country moves forward, where no any one person or group of people will again target another group of people or will manipulate power. If Addis Ababa peace process will help us achieve that, the reforms we want, the change we want, we'll continue with it. But if the government will continue attacking us like the way they do, even today, their forces are on the move towards our position. We'll continue defending ourselves and fighting a war of removing the regime that is always launching attack on the innocent civilians and on our position. This one is very clear. The other question is by Gatmai. He said, from the look of things, the peace agreement seems to have been signed. And Dr. Yaka signed to be the vice president like before, and that is already a done deal. So the office, the SPLM office in Nairobi should be very clear on this. Yes, there has been a document signed in Addis Ababa, and I want to elaborate to you the context under which this document was signed. You know, IGAD mediation is structured, and it is in favor of the government in Juba. It is in favor of Salva Kiir regime. You have the summit of the heads of states of the IGAD countries, where Salva Kiir also sits. The weight under which he sits is not the same like the weight our chairman and the commander-in-chief of the SPLM, SPLA would sit in this forum. It's already unfair forum. Because first of all, Salva Kiir has free access to any of these head of states. Even some of the heads of states, like the one of Uganda, he has firm alliance and understanding with him. The UPDF forces are in South Sudan and they have rejected to leave the country. And this is an integral part of cessation of hostility. You heard that they have also recommitted to the cessation of hostility agreement, which was signed in January 23rd, 2013. This agreement includes the withdrawal of foreign fighters. We want to see this time what will be the difference. If UPDF withdraws from South Sudan, then that means the country is ready for peace. But if they don't withdraw from the country, that means there is even no cessation of hostility agreement which is being implemented. The determinant factor is what will the foreign fighters, the GEM, the Splm North, and the UPDF, what will they do with this recommitment? If they don't withdraw, then we are not also going to accept. That means it is Juba and their allies violating the cessation of hostility agreement. So I was just elaborating the context of what was signed, that it is dependent on what the other side will also do. If they take a step, then we also take step. What we committed for, we will also do our part, as they also do their part. If they don't do it, then that means it has again come to a standstill. So this agreement, which has been signed in Addis Ababa, is a roadmap. I've told you it's a roadmap. Because even when you see the text, they have no flesh. They are not qualified. Like they included federalism, which is one of the key factors in the conflict, in the resolution of this conflict. They only wrote federalism without anything to qualify it, whether it can be implemented or in which form or when. They have not done it. The detail will be negotiated by our delegation. That's why we call it a roadmap, a framework. It is not a comprehensive peace agreement. Comprehensive peace agreement cannot be only 2 or few pages because there are protocols to be attached to it. It's just an isolated document which is trying to draw a framework of where negotiations should take place in the near future. So you should not be worried of what has been signed in Addis Ababa, and then we will not take you to Juba tomorrow. And then the next question is, what is the difference between peace signed in Tanzania and that in Addis? These forums were meant to complement each other because the root cause of the conflict, matches is national, matches is governance issues, matches is, historical. It is started from the party. People wanted to sort out issues in the party. But when they disagreed, then it spilled over to the government and then to the nation. This is what underlines the negotiation in Arusha, in Tanzania. And very big step was made in Arusha, which in our statement, we said it was undone in Addis. The atmosphere of distrust, of mistrust, the atmosphere of no good faith, again has been established in Addis, when we had already dealt with. In Arusha, people were rubbing their shoulders. But when we reached Addis, people were glaring at one another as enemies, something which we were about to forget. Now, where is it coming from? That means the issue is not with us, the parties, it's now with IGAD. IGAD is the one now trying to stall the peace process. That's why we are saying we want to negotiate ourselves. We should not negotiate with IGAD. So this is what I can say
Negotiations are taking so long is because we are a divided opposition. We are not only fighting Salva Kiir, we are also fighting ourselves as the opposition within the opposition. The opposition is very diverse. We have those of Comrade Lama Kola in Juba. We have the G10 who are outside. Some of them call them SPLM Uhuru. We have SPLM in opposition. We have traditional political parties. We also now have, in Western Equatoria, we have a movement which has just started. Governments remain in power, no matter how weak they are, no matter how despotic those governments are. The way that they stay in power is through a divided opposition. And those of you who have lived in Kenya can see the example of Kenya when Moi ran against, I don't know how many, 10, like 15 parties that were running against President Moi during elections in '92, and they all lost. There is no example in the history of the world where a divided opposition has ever defeated the government. So now that's SPLM in opposition, girl, that they are going to defeat the government. G10, the 10 of them, that they are going to liberate South Sudan, the 10 of them alone, they don't want to be with SPLM-IO. Lamakol thinks that him and his political parties, they thought that they will liberate South Sudan alone without anybody. We have seen what happened to Lamakol when he went back to Juba. He's now in a big prison, which is the city of Juba. The negotiations would not take this long if we came as a united opposition. But some of us in our own SPLM in opposition, if you say that, Ya Jama, let us unite my G10, they will say, there khalas, he dissolved ourselves, he's no longer with us. And this kind of attitude will not work. As an opposition, let us come together so that our common goal is to remove Salva from power. Once we have removed Salva from power, let us go and compete in the new political dispensation which we create. But this is very difficult to explain to some of our comrades. And some of them are in positions where they have become untouchable, so their word is almost like gospel. So it becomes very difficult. The second part of that is the history of the CPA. If we look at the CPA, it was not negotiated within just 1 year or 6 months. If you know the history of our movement, what became the CPA started as Kokadam, and Kokadam 1 and Kokadam 2, going to Abuja 1 and to Abuja 2. We had Asmara Declaration where the National Democratic Alliance was created because we also had a divided opposition in that time. When the opposition united, the peace process went further. And we had Machakos protocols all the way until it led to the CPA. This was over a decade of waging peace and war. War and peace are interrelated. You cannot talk about one without talking about the other. So how is our war front? Malakal has changed hands 4, 5 times or 6 times with complete destruction of people and property. Are we organizing the war properly in the field? Because if we intensify the organization of the war, then we will also intensify the organization of the peace. So these are things which are related. I also want to comment about federalism, because and the 21 states that we talked about. Federalism, I don't think is an issue. It is how we have applied federalism. So that if we shout federalism all the time, the U.S. is a country in which there is federalism, but it is not mentioned once in their constitution. So the issue is not to mention federalism in the constitution. And the 21 states also. These are proposals. These are proposals that we will have to take to our people also by then as SPLM in opposition, for them to vote on it in a referendum. Otherwise, we are not that much different from Salva Kiir. So these issues are all proposals for somebody who had commented earlier on this. I think what we must focus on more than anything else is the issue of the two armies. And as that to be a red line, like how Salva Kiir likes to say that this is a red line. The issue of the two armies, we should be able to identify for us what is where we will not compromise. And I only see two very important things, which is the issue of two armies. And not two armies, yes, because we want to have security. But also more than what we are talking about security, we have never had an army in South Sudan. even from the time of 2005 up to today, according to the transitional constitution of South Sudan, by now we should have had the South Sudan Defense Force and the SPLA should have been abolished, according to our constitution, to build a professional army. But this didn't happen. The SPLA, even when it was under John Garang in the bush, was never an army. It was a paramilitary group of people who were fighting for their rights. It was never a real army. So in 2005 and 2011 was the best opportunity for South Sudan to create an army from nowhere. So this has never happened. So the argument for two armies is not only because of security, but also because we have never had an army in South Sudan. So let us take Nasmatiang Anyor and Dutbeng, let's put them on one side. Let's put Gej Mubor on one side. And then let us select the best out of all of them and recruit from the 10 states to create a national army. It's not an issue of, I don't think it's something which the government should refuse because it is a matter of the facts. The second thing that we should be we should take and not move from that position and not compromise, because almost everything else can be compromised, is how are decisions going to be made? Because the issue is not that Dr. Riek has accepted to be vice president. These are proposals, and like we said before, we want a mechanism to bring about the change. So that when we accept the issue of vice president, it's because we have not succeeded in the field. We have not succeeded in the field to remove Salva Kiir by force. So we are now negotiating. And when you're negotiating, you do a give and take. You don't get 100% of what you want. You get 100% in the field. So because we have not defeated Salva Kiir in the field, if we have a two-army situation and we have position of first vice president or prime minister, we can be able to use those positions to bring about the change that we want. What becomes important is how are decisions made within this arrangement. Because we cannot have Salva Kiir come and say that, no, and have veto. No, we must reach a consensus and all of us agree. So the issue of the armies and the issue of how decisions are made, if they say this is the political arrangement that we are going to give you, our question should not be, is Salva Kiir still the president? Our question should be, how are decisions made within that power sharing that we have? So I think the Tanzania issue, I think, was answered by comrades that any movement can be hijacked. Any movement can be hijacked, and we are now suffering because the SPLM was hijacked by some people, and now we have a resistance movement, also known as SPLM in opposition, which is also can be hijacked. You understand? So let us be vigilant. You here who are sitting here, you are more important than us who are sitting up here because you're the eyes of the movement. And if anything is happening, you have to make noise and make sure that this is corrected by the leadership. Thank you.
I would like to contribute on that. The two gentlemen have brilliantly answered the questions according to me. This forum is very vital because, Comrade Mabior is a minister in our system. Comrade Oyet is a minister in our system. Comrade Lam is a deputy head of mission in our Nairobi area. That is our regional office. This Addis Ababa deal, though it is not a deal, is a framework that you people have had, has caused a lot of incompatibilities, and it has caused a lot of frictions, a lot of doubts, a lot of rumors, which you people really need to be clarified, and that this is what is happening today. Our people in Addis Ababa are welcoming these talks today so that you get it right, because many of you may not have access to this document, though some of you have got it. The interpretation is up to anyone who got it. The common idea about this position of the document that was initialized is what we are talking about. Someone has said we are weak in the discussion table. I would like to say we are not weak, because two big steps that we have made we have to appreciate ourselves, and we have to appreciate our negotiators. The first imposed proposal, we rejected it. We lobby across the globe. We lobby in the region, and it was rescinded, like was said by Professor Oyet, and we had to go back to the drawing board. We are not weak on that, because it is hard to reverse that. As he put it before, that there's regional interest. This war has become so much ambiguous and complicated, and we have to work our way through in a very smart way. So when that fails, we went back to negotiate. The semantic team, committees went back to negotiate. They did everything until we had this other recent imposed proposal. It did not take time. It did not take time, actually. We were asked to go back to negotiate. So why are we being asked to go back to negotiate? Is because our team is really doing its work. Our leadership is doing its work to achieve the fundamental objective of this resistance movement, which is to bring change, to bring radical reforms, and to make sure there is accountability for what happened in South Sudan. And that's why youth offices, the office of our chairperson, the office of the spokesperson, all the ministers, they are talking that the report of the African Commission of Inquiry has to be published, because we are transparent and we accept accountability, and we want the world to know who have done these atrocities and who is supposed to be accountable to what. So let us appreciate ourselves. We appreciate our team, that they are keeping momentum. Likewise, all of us, we have to be engaged in keeping momentum. The world is dynamic. It is not the politics of 1990s. It is not the world of 1990s, a digital world with all its politics that are very complex. You need to understand. So if we have come to the negotiating table, we need actually to keep the momentum. We cannot just walk out of that discussion table, because it may reverse the whole system. We are part of the region and we are part of the systems. We want to improve an existing system that has failed, so we want to bring a new system. So if we want to bring a new system, we have to engage our colleagues, our partners, our friends, and the regional powers. There's no way we can escape them. You need to engage them because they are part of the responsibility. That is one that I had wanted to talk about. Pagak Conference is, the resolutions of Pagak Conference is a genuine consensus of us all in our resistance movement. And I tell you, our leadership did not despise the resolutions. They are trying to work out what will make us achieve the same resolutions. Like Comrade Mabur has said, discussion is a give and take. You have to come and compromise something, but you should not, for us, you be assured that we are not going to compromise what is going to compromise the component of accountability, what is going to compromise the security, what is going to compromise the destruction that has been done in South Sudan, and what is going to bring more destruction in the country. This is a reform system that we are fighting for. So anything that assures us to achieve what we want, we can do. And that's what we have recommended in Pagak resolutions. So the youth have two comments, or like I would call them, they are views that need to be addressed. Your views came to my office in December. I am not an highland in the office, I'm in humanitarian, but part of administration. There is political office, and there is the office of the chairperson for youth, who has his own representative in Nairobi, that is a deputy, plus now the youth league person in Nairobi that he has appointed. That is an office. My office is an office, representative office is an office. When your situation came up, all these offices that were informed need only to work in consultation with your own office. They have no right to dictate what is happening in the youth office, but they have the approach to help solve the situation. This is not the right forum to discuss it. I'm there there, Comrade Lam is there, Comrade Hadil is there. So anyone that has an issue to be discussed, please let us take it to the office, come to the office. We initiate some approaches to approach the office, your office, because we are not going to jump there. We have to find a way to approach your office so that we do it there in the office and it will be done. So let's consider this a national issue. These are national ministers. They are trying to address a national issue. Our small issue is our arrangement issue. Bear with us on that and let us move to the agenda. As it was said, it is only about what was signed in Addis and what has been done in Arusha. What I want to add is that anything that has been signed in Addis Ababa for the whole process is always forwarded to our office here in Nairobi. And the office of the spokesperson for the movement is fully aware about it. So anything Mabir said, anything or yet said politically is what we have in the movement. We can always come in to try to build up more flesh on what we are discussing, because this becomes so broad, the questions are so many, that's why we are coming in. So you can always get the information in the office. If it is signed like last night, make sure the following morning this information is in the office. So you have the right to come to the office and collect. Thank you.
It goes to Mr. Mabur. As you have seen now in Addis Ababa, and all of us, we have seen it. What are your strategies, plan, did you put in place for the international community to hear our voice and help us concerning IGAD and the problem of our innocent people who are dying day and night back there in South Sudan? Then the third, we go to the office of Mr. Lam, who was our ambassador here in Kenya. What are your strategic plan did you put in place to help us coordinating with Kenyan government? Did you put in place for us to cooperate with them to help us the way out? Thank you very much.
I think that we play maturely, so we don't need impunity. So that is to the volunteer policy. I would like to ask 3 questions. One of them is about the feast talk in Addis Ababa. We heard that IGAD, in fact, they have a role that they are playing in our feast talk. And when we are looking at how they are handling this feast talk, some of them are having a side. They are always talking of legitimacy of the president. So I would like to ask, if happened today that IGAD, as they are talking that they will sanction some of the one of the party who is violating the peace process. So in case, and definitely for me, I can say it is us, the SPLM in opposition, whom they are targeting. So what can be our plans if we have gotten that they have a side which they are supporting the unity government in Juba, yet they are targeting us. So what are our plans to handle that situation for our people and for ourselves? Second question, we know Kir government has divided us. It has divided us. Even your brother, your uncle is now with him and is not seeing what you are seeing. So you have different with your relatives. Example, I have my uncle who is Kir, and he came and see me. How can I treat him? How will I be frank to him? Should I keep him off from me? So I want to clarify it. And also, to my view, is let's say Uganda has already have a site. If we achieve this, how will we treat or how will we be frank to Uganda so that we cannot talk of dealing with hatred right now with other people who are supporting the government of Salva Kiir. So I would like to understand that. Third is, we are fighting for the infinity government. who is imposing people on people. We don't want a leadership which imposes people to people whom they don't want. As also to you, Ambassador, you need to understand the view of the majority. If we are talking of we don't want this, you have to understand and you come to the table not ignoring it. So I'm a feeling you have already answered, but I'm also a feeling right now that you need to understand the view of the youth in Nairobi. Why are they rejecting a person who may come and kill them like what Salva Kiir did? Thank you very much.
Has been appointed. I don't know whether they added or they didn't. You know what I would like to tell is that maybe some people have intention that they may come and interrupt the press that we have planned for. Maybe they want us to have a different opinion that we shout over. So what I would like to tell them is, don't generalize saying the youth. Say about yourself. It is your opinion. Don't say you. Because you know when we will be asked, maybe the majority of the youth will say that only the here. What will you do? So don't come and interrupt the plan, the press briefing that has been planned. Don't come and interrupt it with a different agenda.
Please stick to the piece. Please stick to the piece.
Signed on the 23rd of January this year in Addis. There was an addendum, a humanitarian addendum that had an overall strategies of the major strategy is that humanitarian access without hindrance. Humanitarian access without hindrance. That compels both sides, both parties, to allow free humanitarian access without any condition. That has been what we are for up to now. The operations that we have now, the humanitarian operations that we have, is emergency. So you know about emergency operation in humanitarian aspect. It deals with what saves lives. We are trying to save life of those that are in our access. If we can access them, we manage to save their lives where we can, through humanitarian efforts. Food delivery is number one. Child protection, that is including the infant, reduction of infant, maternal mortality is crucial. Concern of malnutrition is crucial. Health in general is crucial. These are the things that are being addressed in terms of emergency. You know, when you talk of health, water and environmental sanitation is part of it. Delivery of quick run kits is part of the emergency. So what we are doing now is to ensure whatever we have as the meager funds that have been released for the operation in South Sudan as compared to the wider scope of these operations, we call it meager funds because it has never been achieved 100%. It is actually competing with other regions. So we are not only the concern, you know how the world is moving with the humanitarian crisis. So we are being competed by other regions that need the same funds to operate humanitarian interventions. So take this, number one, food access, delivery of food to the people. Number two is the life of the mothers and children in the camps and in the hideouts. Then you take the two other basic needs. So that is what is happening up to now. We don't have resettlement program that we have to create now. We are not talking about building peace now. We are not talking about reintegration now. We are not talking about livelihood development now. We are not talking about nothing. We are talking of what will save the life of the people at this time. What you need to survive. That's what we are doing. Immediately we sign peace or we overthrow the government in Juba, we'll do what we want to make people sustain their life and to make people comfortable of where they are and what they are doing. The additional thing I wanted to tell you is this. Yesterday, this may be the first time of it to go to media on our site, but yesterday, those who have watched SSTV, there was a communication of people who were detained somewhere, humanitarian workers plus one government, I think, worker in our areas that was in Jech. So a plane was moving from Juba to Bor, Mabur, Jech, Gurwai, back to Bor and Juba. So the routing was supposed to be to pick people up from Mabur when it is coming back from Gurwai and Jech so that they go back to Juba. So the World Food Pilot just told these guys, let us go. And then we are going to Juba. The guys went in the plane, so when they reached Jech, they were asked, why did you come? And they were downed. So one of them was the director of the census, the Isaiah Sholarwai or somebody. So plus two other people who are working for the Lutheran World Federation. So they are now in good hands with our Governor Gabriel Duop, and the office, my office, the office of the chairman of our movement, is working very hard for them to be released to go back, because we are committed to the humanitarian principles. Anything that has to do with the humanitarian, we don't want it to be our fault on our side. They will have to be released, and the chairman is working on it. As I came to this house, I was waiting for his call after he finished communication to call us, to call the UN to go and pick them. So if you have heard of such information yesterday, that is what happened, and we are going to release them. Thank you.
The crisis broke out was to brand us as coup plotters. And this was aimed at giving the president legitimacy and the honor he deserved. But when the world said there was no any evidence of coup in Juba, then we got a very big relief as the movement, as a resistant movement. But they continued running this one-sided story, even when the world does not want to hear it, including their ally, Uganda, because the president of Uganda, even at IGAD, he said there was no coup. And this was a slap on their face. We have been pointing out to the world that Kiir had forfeited his legitimacy. Why? Because he has committed genocide. His militias, the one he trained, who were not part of the regular SPLA, were used to kill on targeted basis Nuer ethnic group. And this story was ran even by the office of Comrade Mabior and all of us who had access to the media, and even you on social media, because I've been following also some of your comments and writings. This is in an attempt to disapprove what the government says and what others in the region say about the legitimacy of the president. Because you cannot kill up to over 30,000 of your citizens who voted for you, and then they run away from you to refugee camps and internally displaced persons camps, and you still call yourself a president of a state. This story was strategically, tactically meant to erode or to disapprove the theory that Salva Kiir was still legitimate. And where we have reached now, even in Arusha, he signed about the root cause of the conflict. He actually technically admitted that there was no coup, but everything started from the Splm party. Now the question that we ask, how did it reach to killing people and declaring war and attempting to disarm a section of his bodyguards, presidential guards? And now the country is in this shape. Who is responsible for the crimes against peace and tranquility in South Sudan? This is also in an attempt to ensure that Kiir does not enjoy any legitimacy at all, though they will still run a story on SSTV, which I'm told very few people even watch it nowadays. The last thing I can say to this effect is now the demand for the AU report to be published. The attempt the act by IGAT and some individuals within the AU system to say let this report not be published is to maintain Salva Kiir. Because if it is published, we even have a clue of this report, by the way. It's a damning report. Me personally believe the report was very objective, was scientific, based on the facts on the ground. If this report comes out, not only Salva Kiir and his officials in Juba, but also some individuals within the region will be affected by this report. Now they said you shelved it. Don't publish it. And the Ethiopian Prime Minister said is to enhance the peace process. They fear that if the report is brought and somebody is being indicted, is to be indicted by ICC, then he will not go for peace. We'll end up like some presidents, like the one of Sudan and the rest. Because now he's wanted, then he may not sign any peace. Yes, there is logic in this, but where they are not negotiating in good faith, like what they are doing in Addis, should this report still be shelved? And yet people die in their hands? That's why we are demanding that let this report be published. And we see whether the legitimacy theory still holds, though the world does not believe in it. Everybody knows that the president does not even deserve to be there. The former president of Ukraine only killed 200 peaceful protesters, and he had to quit. Compared with what happened in Juba and other areas, do you think the world is ready to welcome Salva Kiir as a legitimate president? He is not. Even when he said he was going to hold elections, first of all, he will not do it in Upper Nile. He may do it only in the barracks, in those areas, like Malakal. Only he will do it in the barracks. In Nasir, where they have dug themselves down, they may vote there. In Unity State, in the barracks. Leave alone other areas now which are not part of Upper Nile, that rebellions now have taken shape in Equatoria region. You now have rebellion there. How will he hold elections? In Barghazal, there is now rebellion. Then that means either only his forces, his militias will be the one to vote, or where he comes from specifically. So Salva Kiir has lost his legitimacy. He does not even deserve to be the president. If he was really very honest and very sincere before South Sudanese, let him step aside. And then we continue negotiating for reforms and the rest of the things. Then the last question is, how should we relate with those who support the government of Salva Kiir? And also, how should we relate with Uganda? What I would tell you is that we are operating on the basis of political ideology. And politics normally divide families and people. Take, for example, Comrade Mabior is in the opposition. I mean, Splm, SPLA. And the mom is in the former detainees. And all of them generally are in the opposition to the government. That means they are even more closer than somebody who is on the other side with Salva Kiir. But what is very important is the social bond that you have. But ideologically, you can differ. In fact, you can use the advantage of your social relationship to express your ideological point of view. Like if somebody now serves in the government of Salva Kiir and is your relative, will it be very difficult for you to approach him and say, you look, the reason why we have disagreed with the government is A, B, C, D. And you need to see this very clearly. And you may end up mobilizing him or her. So please don't create enmities that will tear apart your natural unit, the family. But ideologically, you can be different. Like there was a funeral of an official who died and was working with the government. Members of our opposition and also members of government went and showed up there to pay respect. You don't need to be away. You can be there, then you leave. But what you do, how you act, they are determined, they are dictated by the ideology. With the question of our neighbors, Uganda, it depends on what they do to us. Because we are the victims. We are the victims. How they treat us will determine how we will relate with them. Thank you very much.
There's a budget to do things. And if we had a budget, we will do wonders. So I think I'll just add that to the comment of my colleagues, because we are being challenged as if we are not doing enough. And I feel it also, that because the gravity of our situation, whatever that we are doing here is a drop in the ocean compared to the suffering our people are suffering. But you must also understand that we are not a government. We are volunteers who are trying our best to help the situation. And this brings me to the issue that I want to comment about, which is issues of appointment have come up a lot here. People who are dissatisfied with appointments and talking about the majority. This movement is not in any way a representative movement. We have not held nobody who is in any of the positions that we have has been elected by the people. Everything that we have is by appointment. And some of you might have seen my dispute with some of our colleagues on Facebook. So you're not the only ones who have issues with appointments. Everybody in the movement has issues with somebody because they were appointed somewhere. But I think we need to work through these things and focus on the big picture, which is to remove Salva Kiir and bring change into our country. We endorsed Dr. Riek at our meeting in Nasser as the chairperson of SPLM in opposition, and we decided that all our structures of SPLM in opposition are only transitional until a time when we are able to get our people. I was one of the people who was opposed to creating structures because an argument was had within the movement that, the same like what they used to tell John Garang in the bush, harakadema indu shikil. There are no structures. We need to create the structures. Now we have created the structures. Look at the challenges of creating the structures. We have some structures which are redundant, and because there's no funding, they cannot even work. So let us not focus on position. Otherwise, like I said before, we will be like Sulphur's system. If somebody has been appointed in a position and you feel like you don't like it and it should have been you, just wait until the next appointment. Maybe you will also be appointed. So that's just a small comment I want to add.
Thank you. Before I close, I would like to give the opportunity to the two youth because they haven't said anything since.
Peace. Why they call it peace? It's because you negotiate. You negotiate something bad, something wrong. So you guys don't just surprise something got on internet, something was signed, so and so was signed. The internet, even me, I can post anything on internet. Don't just surprise on Facebook. Here, wait from the people like Mabior Garang, like Wiyat, like Mr. Schultz, to brief you like what they're doing now. They're doing a very good work to brief you, to tell you what is going on. Don't just comment on Facebook that everything has been done. Even if Riek Machar went to Juba today, does that mean it is the real peace? Not yet. Our people are still in Kakuma, our people are still everywhere in this world. So it is a long process. It will take more time for us to reconcile. The second thing is, I wanted to comment by reading three proverbs, English proverbs, and those proverbs include everything we did today, from the morning to evening, instead of me to comment much. Allow me to read the proverbs, Mr. Chair. The first proverb says, "Two wrong don't make a right. Two wrong don't make a right." That proverb means when someone has done something bad to you, try to get revenge will only make things worse. Salva Kiir, yet he has done something bad for us. He has killed 1,000 people. But our position is not to revenge, because Salva Kiir has killed 1,000, we need to kill 1,000 from his family. That's not a true. So we will make things worse. We are not going to change any position. So we will be we will be in a bigger bad position than Kiir when we try to revenge. Our position is we fight the political war that is being done by comrades, starting from here. The second proverb says, "The fen is mightier than the sword." So that means trying to convince people with ideas and words is more effective than trying to force people to do what you want to do. And that proverb is going back to IGAD people. IGAD could not force anything on South Sudanese people so that we agree anything depending on the idea. It's better for them to convince slowly, peacefully, than to come and try to enforce something on people. That's not true. So it's better if they convince with words. The third proverb says, "People who live in glass houses should not throw stones." If you live in a glass house, you don't need to throw a stone because your glass will break. This thing is going back to don't criticize all those people if you are not even perfect by yourself. Don't criticize. We don't need to criticize Kiir. Kiir is not good. Kiir has done this, so and so. So what about our position? Are we good? As it been mentioned by the information minister, it's Mabio. Yeah, I'm finishing. Are we good by ourselves? So we need to judge that. The last thing will be the suffering of our people is not Nuer alone. I can say this frankly. Even the Dinka community, they are suffering a lot. I can say they are even suffering more than the Nuer. The Nuer have run to Ethiopia, Gambela. You have more chances in Gambela. But where are Dinka? Can you go to Warab? Me, I went to Warab by myself before the peace sign, before anything happened. I went to Warab, I went to Awil. The situation that was there is more worse than any place in this world. Prisoner. Have you ever gone to prison in Awil? You will cry by yourself.
So the problem is Salva Kiir himself is not the problem of Dinka and Nuer or problem of Equatorians, anyone fighting each other. So we need to reconcile as a South Sudanese people. We remove this guy very slowly in peaceful means so that we choose another person who can come and lead South Sudan peacefully as the heavens nations that was created by God peacefully. Splm oye! Splm oye! Splm oye! Kutura oye! Dinka oye!
And make sure that the regime change we want is actually managed to be removed from power. We must stand tall to support our movement, as our brother Biur and Professor Oyet also elaborating exactly what the movement stands for. And we must support any agreement that they sign, because we believe that they will not accept any agreement that will take us back to war, rather than the peaceful and lasting solution to the crisis in South Sudan. I therefore appreciate all of you, the youth who are here, despite the concern of others, those who may not understood exactly what transpired this movement to move on. Let's believe, if we are all believed to be the SPLM members, let's believe and follow the policy and the rules of the party, so that we will not expose ourselves unless you are agents of any other different organization that might be the matter of distractions to the policy of the youth. Our mission is to make sure we must stand at the youth together with our movement, give it support that necessary, because all of us, we believe the feast that is signed in Addis, it is not exactly the real feast that will bring lasting peace to South Sudanese, but we believe that our leadership will work on it, and we must stand tall to support our movement, that we are the youth, and whatever that is happening in the country, we must stand together, the youth of the Republic of South Sudan, regardless of tribe that you come from, but as the citizen that need the real change of the Republic. Thank you so much. With those few remarks, we will have hope
that if it is the war, we won the war. President Salva Kiir, if you're talking about the Constitution, as they like to claim in Juba, his first mandate is to protect the people of South Sudan. He's killed 30,000. His second mandate is to protect the integrity of the land of South Sudan. He has invited Uganda in 2 days before the war. So by those two things alone, he has lost legitimacy and he's lost everything. But the reason why we're negotiating with him in Addis is because the technicality is, how do you remove someone who has imposed himself upon people? He is still considered a leader. If the world agreed with us, he would have been gone in 2013, in December. But the world is saying that no, there have to be a process to remove him, and that's why we are in Addis. So always be mindful that whatever we discuss in Addis, we all know that and believe our leadership will always take the most important point into heart, which is removing the dictatorship in Juba. And they will do that through peaceful means. He may not be removed immediately, but through system and powers that we're negotiating Addis, he will surely be removed. We can assure you of that. I would like to appeal to the youth in Kenya. I think all of you have been so respectful, you have been so patient, and you've been so professional. In the last meeting when Dr. Ego was here, I was so amazed on how you all behaved. So professional and so nice. All the telephones were off, and we really like that, and we appreciate that. We'd like to also encourage this environment of friendliness here in Nairobi. It doesn't matter if Gatkot is chosen and it's not your choice, or it should have been chosen in place of Gatkot, or somebody you like or love or relative should have been in place of Gatkot. Please bear with the system. It is the system that we try to change in Juba. Okay? It is also the system that we try to change in Juba. Things must be done through a system. Our leaders tried for so many years, let's say from 2005 up to 2013, so that things will be done rightly. Because the man on the top didn't listen to the system, that's why we are where we are. So we also urge you, those who are
in the SPLM, SPLA now on our side, to also please respect the hierarchy and respect the system. I have addressed several youth, in regarding to the point here, I have addressed several youths in our office that we have taken this issue as a priority in the office. But the place of the conference is not the environment for it. We've told them that after this conference, we'll invite you, the side of the office, and those in the opposition, so we can come and discuss in the office. I also believe that, please, patience is a virtue. We must be patient. We must learn to be patient. So without further ado, I would like to say thank you to my comrades on my right, Comrade Mabir Dagarang, the chairperson of information, Comrade Oyet, the chairperson of political mobilization, Comrade Gideon Gatpan, the country director of